My dad would always say to me, he goes, you real estate people make me laugh. You analyze it every which way. It's pretty simple. It goes from here to here. So we've owned for 60 some odd years. We bought it for 38 and it's probably worth 5 now. I never thought it would ever be this way, but he said, when we would go to Christmas parties every year, the talk in the neighborhood was, did you hear someone just sold their house? Did you hear that the Fitzgeralds sold their house for $64,000? And the conversation was, maybe it's a good time to sell. And then the next Christmas, did you hear it? They got 72,000 on the Stegan's place down the street. And that continued for years. And he said, when I see the market go flat, everyone, the media, everyone complains. They think it's this depression we're going through. He says, it's flat. We don't know what it's like for it to dip. And we have this 2008, which left scars for everyone because they lost some money. And then what happens? It just goes right back up and it's doubled or tripled since 2008. So he said, what is it about real estate that people think are so complicated? The $2 million homes today in 10 years will probably be 3 or 4. The $4 million homes today will be 8 or 10. Numbers you can't fathom, but he said, I've been watching this for 60 years of my life. I don't see that changing. What's complicated about that? And it's so when you ask about where it's going, it's like when you really look at the broader picture of real estate, there's times it goes down and there's times where it stays flat, but overall, you don't see a grid like this that showed 30 or 40 years in real estate values go like this. Show me one grid that shows that anywhere in the US. It doesn't happen. So buying land has become more important than ever because if companies are taking away all of their security measures with pensions and 401ks, what's the natural thing people have is buy real estate because they can't take that from me. They can't make a change on that, and I can manage it. I can manage that and own it and not have somebody else tell me that I just lost my job or they're pulling my pension plan. But I can control that, and that will protect my family.
And now what does that do to people that don't have real estate?
And that's the problem. So what's happening right now is that we call separation season. So in our business, we're seeing it, I feel it. I feel like the middle class right now, either you've done well enough or let's say you've got your own like business plan or strategic way to get there. You can either go and take advantage of these times of prices growing by either figuring out a way to get in the game, whether it's small or just getting in the game by owning some form of real estate, right? And playing that out. Or if you don't, then you're going to start to see more of a separation. And we're seeing it with people they couldn't afford it. They're very conservative. They wanted to wait until rates came down and they didn't come down, but prices went up and that doesn't make sense to them. And now they're looking 3 years later and saying the same property I wanted to buy is now $300,000 more. That's a problem. So they have to change their expectations. Maybe now I'm buying a condo or a townhome, but I was buying a single family residence. I wanted to buy that 3 years ago with a beautiful backyard, and I wanted to wait for rates to come down because it wasn't favoring me, and now it's gotten worse. Now what do I do? And as they continue to wait, they might get to a point where they can't afford anything within a 50-mile radius of where they want to live.
And do you think this is sustainable? Because sometimes when we look around, like most of these homes, the mortgages are a lot, like $8,000 a month.
Right.
And average home in California is around $800,000, and the mortgage for that is with taxes it should be $6,000 to $7,000 a month, something around that. Is that sustainable? How many people can pay that?
Yeah, no, it's that's what I mean. That separation season. What's happening though? The dynamic of what's happening is you have a lot of engineers that are coming in from outside of the United States. Okay, high tech is not just Silicon Valley now, and so I'll have 2 clients, and I'll tell you this is the successful side because they can afford it. I'll have 2 clients. They're from Google. They're about 35 years old. They both make about $200,000 each as engineers on their base salaries. They get about $200,000 in bonus money because Google will typically hit their numbers, but they also get another $200,000 in stock, and the stock is always going up. So the lenders will look at that and say, usually we don't count stock in your income. Well, they do because they have a track record of the last 20 years of it growing. So they count all 3 of those areas as income. So now on paper, each of them make $1 million a year. And if they make $1 million a year, they qualify then for a $3 million home, but they can go even higher. So if they're going in for their first home at 35 years old with that kind of financial background, and in fact, I'm dealing with these clients right now, and we have multiple offers on a property, we might have to pay $300,000 or $400,000 over list price to get that property as buyers because we're competing with others. So the seller loves it. They just had a multiple offer scenario. They sold their house for $3.4 million to my clients, but my clients paid $3.4 million for a home, and it's their first home. That's the successful side. Now take the majority of Californians that have just a regular job. Maybe it's not Google or high tech, but they're earlier on. They're earlier on, say they'll get there maybe when they're 35, but they're in their later 20s and they're just trying to acquire as much as they can. And their salary is half that and they're where they're at, but they're watching real estate increase much faster than their income. They're thinking to themselves, I don't know if I can live here. Or they start to think differently, or like, what do we do as we move forward?